that. Okay.
All right. Mr. John, did you have the opportunity to review the phone records, the AT&T phone records for Miss Phillips' phone number and phone numbers ending 470, 207, 3255, 678, 558, 3918, and 678, 761, 0114?
Yes.
Those records which were provided as F-47 and already tendered by the court. Now, if I'm going to show you what I've marked as F-48. What is F-48?
So this is an extract of the full length of AT&T records that that was shared. So I summarized it in this document.
Did you prepare this document?
Yes, I did.
Okay. The transactions here, the numbers, where's that information from?
Correct. It is from the AT&T records that was shared as a part of subpoena.
Okay. I'm going to tender F-48.
Judge, I'm going to object in as much as it not only contains a summary, it contains conclusions, particularly highlighted, time frame, and arranged. There's no way that he can possibly know what the conversations were, if anything. Consequently, I object to F-48.
My client can testify as to his knowledge of phone numbers and contact and when he was in contact or when there's communications between Father Matthew and Miss Phillip based on the phone numbers that have already been authenticated. You know, if you want to cross-examine them on the certain phone numbers or the contact and the dates, that's something that could be done with Miss Phillip and the AT&T records. But as far as the objection, my client can testify what he has personal knowledge of and also the records that have been admitted into evidence.
Your Honor, if you take a look at the second page where it says highlighted time frame when Father Matthew contacted Binu, again, that's at issue. Arranged meeting between Sheena and Sabu, again, that's at issue. And there's no way that he can know these from the records or can testify as to that.
He already did testify as to, and so did Binu Monsi, as to the meetings that occurred with Father Matthew and where they occurred, and we submitted the transaction charge at the Kroger and Snellville, and I mean, that doesn't go to admissibility, that goes to weight of the evidence, and if Mr. Tannen wants to cross-examine based on what he thinks is credible or not credible, my client can still testify as to, you know, his knowledge and what these records would demonstrate.
I'm going to let it in and give it the weight it deserves. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Mr. John. Now, I understand that records were requested for 470-207-3255 phone number. Why do you believe, if anything, or what are you basing on that phone number is Mr. Sabu?
That phone number was, the reason I believe it belongs to Sabu is because there is a voice recording of Binu Monsi and Sabu, which is submitted as an evidence. And that phone call came from those numbers.
Okay. When did the contact between Binu and Sabu occur?
Objection, Your Honor. How's Mr. John supposed to know when the contact between two other people occurred?
Because he was involved in the contact.
Was he there? How was he involved in it?
I guess that would be a clarification. Mr. John, were you, or did you observe the recording, or otherwise were you involved with Binu when Sabu was calling her?
I wasn't involved. It was shared with me.
What did he say?
He wasn't involved.
Okay.
It was shared with them. Okay.
It was shared. Okay.
All right.
I'll sustain your objection. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Now, when you previously testified and we submitted into evidence a document that showed an alleged meeting between Father Matthew and Binu Monsi at the church in Loganville. Do you recall that?
Yes,
Okay. Now, Father Matthew testified, if you recall, of the phone number that he used. Do you remember what that phone number was?
yes.
What was that phone number?
The phone number he used, he said is 847-217-8613.
And did Miss Phillip have contact with Father Matthew on that number on a good number of occasions in September and October of 2019?
Yes, based on the AT&T records provided.
Okay. And when Father Matthew was asked about his contact with Miss Phillip, did he indicate at all that he was in contact with her this frequently?
Ms. Rubel, I'm sorry, but something, your volume's going a little bit in and out. Sometimes I'm hearing you perfectly and I don't know what it could be.
I'm not sure either, but I can re-ask the question.
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, ma'am.
Sure. Mr. John, when Father Matthew was asked about his contact with Miss Phillip, did he at all indicate that he was in contact with Miss Phillip this frequently in September and October of 2019?
No, I recall that he said he had very minimal conversation or contact with Miss Phillip.
Did he indicate whether or not Miss Phillip was a member of his church?
He indicated that Miss Phillip comes to his church.
Okay. Now, Father Matthew, do you recall whether or not he testified if he had any contact with Miss Phillip in the summer of 2020?
He said again the communication with Miss Phillip was very limited.
The number that I'm highlighting there, the 847, is that Father Matthew's number?
Yes.
Okay. And the meeting that you went out to when you eventually had the meeting out in Loganville, what was the date of that?
June 28th, 2019.
Okay. Now, you recall that, well, let me ask you this. Did Miss Phillip have any contact with Steffi Lawrence?
There is one number that I was able to show in that AT&T records of Steffi and Miss Phillip. There is a log of it, a phone call log.
Okay. How do you know that that's Steffi's phone number?
Steffi contacted me during my divorce, right? So I know his number.
Okay. And that was in June 11th of 2019.
That's correct.
So this would have been roughly 2.5 years after your divorce.
That's correct.
And were you in contact with Steffi Lawrence in June of 2019?
No.
Were you receiving any messages from Steffi Lawrence in June of 2019?
I was receiving random threat messages. I could recognize from the voice that it is his sound.
Okay. Now, did Miss Phillip have any contact with her brother at all from the records that we were able to obtain?
Yes, the call logs from the AT&T subpoenaed report showed a constant communication between Miss Phillip and her brother.
Okay. Now, this document here, who provided that's attached to this has been referred to. So tell me.
Judge, I'm going to object to the introduction of this. This is a summary in which we are trying to get into the testimony. This is not evidence. This is what he has to testify to.
I can have it refresh his memory if the court doesn't want to look at it. It's relevant content. It's going to be his testimony.
Okay. And Mr. Tanner, let me be a little more clear on the other thing. I'm going to just look at the numbers that he's identified the numbers with the people, not necessarily his dissertation on there about what it was, like this is what they.
Or whatever, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna just look at the phone numbers and who it's identified with, not necessarily
Okay.
an explanation on the other log. If you need to refresh his recollection to get him through his testimony, that's fine.
Sure.
Don't forget, Mr.
Okay.
John, don't build the clock. Just tell me what time it is.
Yeah,
Do
just
not
ask
build
the
clock.
question. Answer the question asked.
Judge,
did you-
Ms. Rubel, just for clarification, this for reference is solely being used to refresh his recollection. It is not being admitted into evidence, correct?
This part, right, this part right here, this for reference part,
Mhm.
Yes.
right, this part is not. He's using it for reference. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna close that part of the screen.
Okay,
Figure
that's
out again.
helpful. Did you have any communications, Mr. John, with Titus Thomas at any point in 2019 or 2020?
Yes.
Who is Titus Thomas?
Titus Thomas is Binu Mohansi's cousin brother.
Okay, and when you say cousin brother, you mean male cousin. Is that accurate?
Male cousin, yes.
Okay. Now, did you receive any, did Titus provide you any communications or information that he had had with Sheena, Sabu, and Steffi Lawrence?
He
Judge,
did.
I'm going to object based on what Titus is providing. If Mr. Monsi is going to testify, he's the person who should testify as to Titus, as to what he is providing. I just wanted to clarify that Mr. Titus will be testifying.
Yes, he will. And I didn't ask the content of the messages. I just asked if he shared information with Mr. John.
Okay.
I mean,
Just to
I'm
get
gonna,
information.
I'm gonna admit it with the witness, but I just, to keep things moving.
That's why she wants you to just listen to the question, Mr. John. Did he share information? Not what he shared, did he share information?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, the exhibits. Sorry, where is it? Exhibit F43, that's already been tendered into evidence. Father Matthew messages. Did you have an opportunity to review that?
Yes.
Okay. And tell me about your knowledge of, or when you were involved, if you went out to, if you had any contact with Father Matthew, or you went out with Miss Monsi to the church.
Judge, I'm going to object again. These are conversations that Ms. Rubel should have asked Ms. Joseph/Monsi about. Mr. John is not involved in these conversations.
Well, my specific question is, based on those communications, did Mr. John actually physically go out to meet Father Matthew at the church?
John, can you answer that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Did you have any other contact with Father Matthew in the summer of, I don't want to misstate, so I want to look at the exhibit. Give me a second. (2019)
No.
No. Okay. Alrighty. Exhibits. I would like to go ahead and tender to the court. This is records produced, and this is notice of intent to tender the Kinco records that have been self-authenticated. This is Miss Phillips' former employer through 2020. And that is exhibit F32.
Sorry, ma'am, can you repeat that, please?
Sure. I'm proffering and tendering to the court the Kinco records, specifically the employment records of Miss Phillip, and it is F32.
And that's for 2019 pay summary year-end bonus.
Yes.
Correct?
Any objections?
No,
All right, they're admitted.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Mr. John, did you receive any financial information from Ms. Phillip during the case, including and up through the temporary hearing on child support that was held in October of 2020, regarding any change in her employment or pay?
No, I did not.
How did you obtain her Kinco employer records?
Through subpoena.
So Ms. John didn't provide those. I mean,
Miss-
Ms. Phillip did not provide those to you.
Miss Phillip provided only a couple of pay slips
Okay.
from her
Now,
previous employer.
did Ms. Phillip supplement any of her pay information and pay stubs prior to the hearing that was held on our discovery dispute?
I'm sorry, can you please repeat that question?
Sure. Did Ms. Phillip provide any of her new employer's information prior to the hearing we had on our discovery dispute?
No,
Okay, I'm going to pull up that pleading for the court, and I'll need to mark it. Be pulling up a filed copy of the order on discovery dispute once it decides to load. That was filed April 6th of 2021.
Okay.
All right, Mr. John, sorry that took a minute. Download feature has taken a while. Is this a true and accurate copy on the order of our discovery dispute against Ms. Phillip that was filed on April 6th of 2021?
yes,
And was Ms. Phillip, did the court make a finding that Ms. Phillip hadn't provided the information that we'd requested pursuant to our 6.4B in our motion to compel?
yes,
Did Ms. Phillip state that, and her counsel state she had the financial information in her possession, but that it hadn't been provided?
yes,
Where there are inquiries as to whether or not Ms. Phillip had filed her 2019 tax return, and if she had a copy of that?
yes,
Okay. Had Ms. Phillip provided a copy of any of her Delta Community Credit Union financial account statements as of April 6th of 2021?
April 6th of 2021.
This is
No,
the,
yeah, no, as of, no,
did we send requests for all of Ms. Phillip's financial statements as part of discovery?
yes, we did,
Did we send a 6.4B related to those financial records?
we did,
Did we file a motion to compel related to those records?
we did,
Did we ask for a discovery conference related to her failure to provide those records?
we did,
Did the court order Ms. Phillip to provide a list of documents to us as of April 6th, and it was supposed to be provided because we had a hearing prior? She was supposed to provide all this information by April 7th of 2021. Is that
That's-
accurate?
yes,
This included all of Ms. Phillip's current employer information. Is that accurate?
that's correct.
And on April 7th, did she provide a single document related to her current employer?
Are you asking me whether I provide?
No, I'm asking whether she provided us any document compliant with this order.
Not with about the employer. Only thing she provided later is a few additional statements from 2016, but not all the documents that are requested here.
Do you know whether or not Ms. Phillips supplemented all those documents on April 15th?
Not all documents, no.
Okay. And did the court reserve the issue of attorney's fees related to the discovery dispute, including the 6.4B and the motion to compel that we filed in this case?
Yes,
So as we stand here today, Ms. Phillips still hasn't complied with this order of the court, asking her, requiring her to produce these documents. Is that accurate?
that's correct.
Your Honor, I'm going to mark this as father's 52. It
No
is a
objection
pleading
to
of the
order, Your Honor.
record, but I'll go have it marked and uploaded.
Go ahead, Mr. Tannen.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
What did you say?
No objection.
Okay, it's admitted.
Mr. John, did you incur attorney's fees for us to send follow-up calls, emails, a 6.4B, a motion to compel, and have a discovery conference related to the documents that Ms. Phillips failed to provide during this litigation?
Yes, I did.
Are you asking the court order that Ms. Phillips reimburse you for those fees that you've incurred related to this discovery dispute and her apparent complete ability to ignore her obligations to provide financial information?
Yes,
Objection,
please.
argumentative.
You said objection.
Argumentative.
Didn't seem argumentative to me.
Okay.
Questions? Go ahead, Ms. Rubel.
Okay.
Can you answer, Mr. John?
Yes, please, please.
All right. What type of medical condition is your mother getting treatment for? When you were there helping her get treatment, what was it for?
It's for bipolar
Objection, Your
disorder.
Honor. He can't testify as to what his mother was getting treated for. Only a medical expert can testify as to that.
I believe that he can testify as to his personal knowledge and statements made by Mr. George or his observations as far as her condition when he was there with her.
He's not, Your Honor, he's not competent to render a diagnosis.
Well,
I'm-
I think he could probably say, and don't get into a lot of personal stuff, Mr. John. For instance, if she has cancer, if is she getting treatment for a certain disease that she's told you, your understanding, is it something terminal or is it just like a broken bone?
I understand, Your Honor. Yes.
Do you know what it is?
It's bipolar disorder.
Okay, well, okay, I wish we would have said mental health, but okay, thank you.
Okay. You mentioned that your mom was very Catholic and was angry about your divorce. What is your mom's position, if anything, about consumption of alcohol?
Oh, it's anyone consumes even a glass of wine is an alcoholic for her.
All right, let me ask you some questions, pointed questions at this point. Have you talked poorly to the children about their mom?
No,
Have you ever talked to the children about their mother in a negative manner?
no,
Have you ever talked to the children about Sabu?
yes,
Did you talk to the children about Steffi Lawrence and being in their presence?
yes.
And when you had the conversation, what did you tell your children? What were you concerned about, if anything?
The reason I'm concerned about Steffi Lawrence is I have listened to some of the voice recordings of Steffi Lawrence. It's very nasty, vulgarous, and some of it is submitted to this court as evidence. And I also had, some of the communications he had with Binu Monsi was shared. So knowing this person, I did a Google search on his criminal background, and the report that I show was
Objection,
in.
Your Honor.
Sure.
Just
Counsel.
tell me what you told your children. What were you concerned about if they were around Steffi?
Sure. As a father to my children, I told them to be careful with this person. Knowing what I know about this person, around this person as teenagers, I was concerned. So I told them to be careful with this person.
Did you have any concerns or communications with the children about Sabu being around them?
Yes.
Okay, and what did you tell them, if anything?
So almost the same thing. So after I came to know from different sources about this person, Sabu, I actually was came to know that.
Stop. If you found out something from Google, I don't want to hear that,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, sure. So I told my kids to be safe, especially knowing that Miss Phillip is traveling to different places. I kind of asked them to be safe, whether if they need my help, I will be there to help them, etc. So I was trying to be protective for them as a father.
Okay. Have you repeatedly insulted, disparaged, and made untrue statements about Miss Phillip to family and friends?
No,
Have you created a fictitious entity or used an accomplice to make untrue, hurtful, and disparaging allegations against Miss Phillip's character?
no,
Have you alleged Miss Phillip is involved in a meretricious relationship with a fictitious individual?
no,
Have you accused Miss Phillip of financially supporting a religious institution that you believe is engaged in some type of rituals?
no.
Okay. Tell me about that. Well, let's get into this. Have you had any packages, unusual packages or items show up at your residence? And if so, what was that?
Yes, I received probably 6 to 8 packets. Some came through FedEx, some came through USPS, some came through UPS, and that contained lemon, chilies, flowers, kind of a, I would say, witchcraft or black magic type items, plus normally a note in it, which it said like, separate the relationship between Anne Joseph and Joe.
Okay, I'm sorry. You have to, lemon, chilies, powders. Then you said,
Flowers. Lemon, chilies, flowers. Then there is a printout.
okay, a printout. Okay,
Yes.
and what does it say?
It said separate Joe and Anne and Joe.
Okay, a note. Okay.
A note.
And when you received these 6 to 8 items, over what period of time were you receiving these packages in the mail?
2019 through 2020 beginning.
When,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
2019 through 2020, the beginning of 2020.
Did you contact any police authorities related to these packages?
Yes, I contacted in 2019 February. I contacted Milton Police. Milton Police that's where I live, and I showed them some of the evidence, including a recording of Steffi Lawrence threatening. It looked to me it is threatening to me, and then I started registered a case with the Milton Police Department.
Okay.
Then the detective half later.
Okay. So you shared these packages and this content with Detective Half?
I did.
Okay. Let me ask this. Have you accused Miss Phillip of witchcraft or wicked activities?
No.
Now, in your opinion, given that you have been receiving packages, 6 to 8 different packages from 2019 to 2020, over 150 emails from random addresses harassing and otherwise disparaging you, including locations of where you've been, and in summary of all the information that you've shared with this court, what is your opinion? Who do you believe is motivated to go through such lengths to contact you?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation, and really the judge is the decider and maker of those opinions, not Mr. John.
Rephrase, Ms. Rubel?
I think that my client can testify based on all of the content of information that he's received in packages. He can express his opinion. I'm not asking him to make a finding for the court. Your Honor, you can make an assessment one way or another, but I'm asking my client his opinion. These communications that he's received, is there anybody out there that you can think of that would have a really nasty grudge against you, Mr. John?
You can answer that.
There is nobody that has a real grudge against me. I am a peacefully, quietly living person. I don't get into any issues with anybody.
Okay. Did you have a meeting with Father Matthew and his superior, Father Tommy, at the church prior to a final hearing in this case?
Yes, I did.
Did you share with Father Matthew your concerns about his prior communications and the alleged secret marriage with Miss Phillip and another individual?
Yes, I did.
What were you trying to do, or what was your hope from that meeting with Father Matthew's superior, Father Tommy, and Father Matthew?
So I was trying to do two things. One, the affidavit that was signed is Father Matthew's, because I emailed him a few times asking him, he didn't respond. I called him, he didn't respond. So I had to reach out to his superior, Father Tommy. And then I went and met with him, with Father Tommy first. Then Father Tommy actually arranged a meeting with Father Matthew because Father Matthew was avoiding me. So I had to use
what?
Stop. She asked you to repeat your question again, Mr. Rubel.
Sure.
What's what you were trying to accomplish? So you got to listen. What?
Yeah. What were you? Oh, yeah. Tell me, what were you trying to accomplish when you had a meeting with? I guess after all your efforts trying to get in direct contact with Father Matthew, what was your intention with meeting with Father Tommy?
to meet with Father Matthew.
Okay. And did Father Tommy arrange that meeting?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And did you in fact have that meeting?
I
And
did.
attend that meeting?
I did attend that meeting.
Okay. Have you accused Miss Phillip of mentally harassing your mother?
I didn't accuse, but there are a lot of information that I know that makes me believe that, but I did
Okay.
not accuse her.
Okay. Have you attempted to have Miss Phillip arrested for conspiring to murder you?
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
Have you attempted to have Miss Phillip arrested for conspiring to murder you?
No, I did not.
Okay. Have you filed an action for contempt against Miss Phillip to recover rings which you know are in your mother's possession?
Sorry, repeat that question, please.
Well, let me break it down.
Yeah.
Do you believe that the 7 missing gold rings are in your mother's possession?
No, it is not within my mother's possession.
Okay. Have you failed to pay $2,978.25 for your portion of an orthodontia expense for one of your minor children?
Yes, I failed to in 20 I did not fail to pay. What I asked for is additional information on it, and it wasn't provided to me.
Okay. Did you in fact pay the $2,978.25 to Ms. Phillip despite not receiving the
Yes.
invoice or additional information?
I paid the full amount.
Okay. Did Ms. Phillip ever provide you any documents directly or even through the litigation for the orthodontia treatment that was roughly $3,000 in August of 2020?
No, she only provided the proposal, the contract, not the
Okay.
actual payment invoice.
Okay. Did Ms. Phillip provide you any invoices for the orthodontia treatment prior to her filing her amended contempt in January of 2021?
No.
Okay. I'm going to show you. Okay, let me get this. I guess I need to mark it. I'm going to show you a copy of your financial affidavit prepared for this final hearing. Scroll through that. Is that a true and accurate copy of your financial affidavit prepared for final hearing in this matter?
Yes.
I believe this one's got the. And this was verified on April 15th of 2021. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
I'm going to mark this, but as F53, and I'll have Miss Williams do that for me and mark it. But I tender my client's financial affidavit.
Any objections?
None whatsoever, Your Honor.
All right, it's admitted.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. John, talk to me about your previous, any additional income that you received outside of your salary prior to 2021.
So the only additional income I'm receiving is the bonus, which is discretionary to the company based on 3 or 4 factors: the market condition, my performance, company's performance, etc. And it varies significantly. It varies from $8,000 to $30-something thousand. That's the only other thing. It comes with my income. With my McKesson employer. There is no other additional income I'm receiving from any place.
Okay. So you're full-time employed with McKesson, is that correct? Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay, so we've already tendered into evidence F2, but I just want to get to highlight these points for the court. So your pay stub, March 31st of 2021. As of March 31st of 2021, did you have any, or have you had any bonus income from your employer at this point for 2021?
No, I haven't. And this year, getting bonuses because of COVID and or probably it's not going to happen.
Okay. Have you prepared, or have we prepared child support worksheets for the 2 minor children for the court?
Yes.
You recall? Okay. Now I'm gonna, where did you decide to open child support worksheet? Okay, now you mentioned that your oldest child, Maria, turns 18 in May, right now. She's graduating.
September 4th is when she's going to be turning 18.
Okay. So she graduates in May, but she turns 18 September 4th
That's
of 2021.
2020.
Okay. I'm going to show you our child support worksheet for 2 children that's been submitted to the court. Now, based on the relative income, is it true that you incur about 60% of the relative household income, and Ms. Phillip incurs about 40% of the relative household income for the 2 children?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to show you something. Or that's Schedule D. Schedule A, why is it not? Oh, okay, it just prints. On your child support worksheet presented to the court, you have Miss Phillips' income here from her employer. Is that accurate?
So the numbers are not, the invoices, the pay slips are not provided yet. My understanding is that you may have shown a copy of one of the pay slips during the last mediation.
Okay. But as of April, as of the order for her to produce the documents from her new employer and all those terms and conditions, including bonuses and everything, none of that was provided pursuant to that order for the discovery dispute, correct?
Not provided.
The bonus that's used here, is that from her previous employer?
That's correct.
And isn't it true that we did not include any number relative to the cash deposits that Ms. Phillip has received from unknown sources?
We haven't.
And in the summer of 2019, that was $18,000, wasn't it?
Correct.
Okay. Has Ms. Phillip provided any additional information of where that cash may be coming from?
She never provided that.
Okay, now let me ask you something here, because I know that we've had this discussion. The health insurance premiums that we submitted to the court, that number straight includes the premium in F3 is the health insurance prices that's been proffered to the court. But then you were later able to obtain a document that explained a health insurance discount. Do you know what the total amount you pay for your children's medical, dental, and vision is, just for their portion, per month?
Yes, it will be $299.85 based on the amount I'm paying for 2021.
Okay. And so are you asking the court to modify your child support obligation to $1,139 for 2 children? And then when Maria reaches the age of majority,
I think it's bass backward because what you showed said 1439 for 2.
oh, I'm sorry. I did say that backwards. You're right. Keep me on my toes, Mr. Tannen.
Yeah.
1,427. And these have been submitted to the court. So for 2. Is that not sharing? No, I didn't share. I was choosing it, but not sharing. 1,427 for 2 children. And see, I hate it when it does that. There we go. $1,001 for 1 child.
That's correct. The only correction there is the item 8 there. So the calculation is $299.85. The medical expenses for the children.
Okay. All right. Now, are you requesting any change to final decision making for your children pursuant to this case?
Yes, I am.
And what change would you like to see?
I like to be the primary legal custodian for the mental, I can't remember the term, the mental decision making for children.
Okay, I'm going to show you father's proposed parenting plan.
You say medical?
Mental health.
Oh, the
Mental.
mental health, the new one,
Yeah.
okay.
Are you asking the court to give you final decision making regarding the children's counseling or any reunification therapy, mental health treatment assessments, or course of treatment related to same?
Yes.
Do you recognize that given your children's ages and their last position as far as their willingness to have contact with you, that you have more than Mount Everest to climb?
I recognize that, but as a father, I wanted to keep trying.
Okay. Are you asking the court to strongly encourage and remind Ms. Phillip that she has an obligation pursuant to joint legal custody, that she inform you of any decisions relating to your children, any events relating to your children, and to extend the courtesy of respecting you as a parent to these children?
Yes.
Did you file a contempt against Ms. Phillip for her failure to provide you any information related to your children's education, medical expenses, or anything related to that?
I did not file a contempt. I did not.
Are you asking the court to make a determination that Ms. Phillip either entered into a meretricious relationship or had some type of marriage ceremony with another individual in June of 2019?
Yes.
Are you asking the court to make Ms. Phillip repay you the alimony payments that have been deducted from your pay stub since that time?
Yes.
And are you asking the court for Ms. Phillip to repay you the value of the gold rings, the 7 missing gold rings?
Yes.
Okay. Are you asking the court to hold mother in contempt for failure to return the rings pursuant to the final judgment decree?
Yes.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, I hope that wasn't loud. Are you asking the court to order that Ms. Phillip pay your attorney's fees that you've incurred with Meriwether and Tharp for the pending actions that you filed against her and for defending against the allegations and actions that Ms. Phillip has filed against you?
Yes.
Based on your review of the information, financial records by Ms. Phillip, did she not have $140,000 cash somewhere that's disappeared since summer of 2020?
Yes.
Alrighty. That's all I have for this witness except redirect.
Mr. Tannen, so it is 4:27. If you, I doubt that your cross will be finished in 30 minutes. However, if you want to take the time now for everyone to look at their calendars. So it seems like, how many more witnesses do you have, Ms. Rubel? I know Mr. Tannen probably has a few.
I have, sorry, I had them all written down. There they are. Sorry. One. I have one witness that I expect to be about 30 minutes, and I have two other witnesses that I expect to be about 15 minutes.
Ms. Rubel, would you identify them for me so that if I'm going, then I don't have to continue to prepare or whatever for certain of the witnesses on May call that you're not going to be calling?
I would be happy to do that if you'd provide me with a list of all the witnesses that you will be calling and not calling, and limit yourself to that.
Sure, sounds good.
Well, here's who I have in the waiting room: Jaya Prakash, Ann Joseph, Joshny John, Krithana, Saji, and Titus.
Yep, I have Titus, Joshny John, and Kirthana.
And Mr. Tannen or Ms. Carlson.
Can you say Titus, Joshny, and who else, ma'am?
Kirthana.
Who? Key. Got it.
Oh yeah, Key.
Okay. And
And then any cross of Miss Phillip, but I don't.
we're gonna call obviously Ms. Phillip. I'm sorry. Who? Ms. George, obviously. We're going to call the two children. And let's see who else.
We have an Ann Joseph and I'm assuming made an Ann Joseph. That's what it says on here.
I'm going to excuse that witness.
Monsi.
That's
Okay.
Binu Monsi.
Oh, okay. And I have Saji Phillips. I'm sorry if I'm destroying his name. I'm assuming that's okay.
And possibly a Shaji Phillip.
Okay. And then I have Jaya Prakash. That's who's here today anyway.
Can I just get some information on why the children are testifying?
They're testifying both as to their preferences for parenting time and also as to the father's credibility. And they are anxious to testify, not being drawn to testify. They also want to testify as to the concept of the alleged meretricious relationship and or marriage of their mother.
Yeah, I'm gonna object. One, because why would these children have any knowledge about a religious ceremony that their mom participated in secret? I'm presuming they're just gonna come in and say that it didn't happen, which I don't know how they would have personal knowledge one way or another unless they say they witnessed it, which I'm not aware of. The
Good.
children can testify as to which parent they primarily want to live with as an affidavit of election, and that would be what would be relevant. However, this isn't a modification of custody case. This is Miss Phillip attempting to modify visitation, and children don't get to pick when they have parenting time with the parent. That's not within any type of custody statute at all whatsoever, period.
Not
And-
so much, Judge. 16 and 17-year-olds affidavits of election do get to say as to visitation. It's interesting, Ms. Rubel subpoenaed the children to appear and now doesn't want them to testify. And these are fact witnesses as to someone living in the house or someone not living in the house, and or their mother relating to them, and or they're participating in a marriage.
Well,
Yeah, no, by the way, they're 17 and 18 or 16 and 17. These are not 8-year-olds.
Let me say this, Your Honor, the only reason I had to subpoena the children is because I wanted to tender in the recordings of the children. I asked counsel to stipulate to the admissibility of the recordings. They refused, and the only way I could get those into evidence is if the children were going to testify. So that issue was I tried to avoid in its entirety completely, and I am objecting to these minor children being involved in this litigation any further than they already have. I mean, essentially.
So, Mr. Dill, let me understand this. So you're telling me you want them to come on here, sit in front of their parents, both of them, and say, "Dad's a liar"?
Yep. As
Yes.
well as, is there anybody living in their home? Has there been anybody living in their home? Has the mother mentioned anything about a marriage? What has your father done in terms of visitation with you? I think that this is all relevant, and the children are virtually 18 and 17. And it's not nice, it's not pretty, but it has to be done.
Well, no, it's not nice and it's not pretty, but and one is, as long as they're still children, they're not grown, and they do still have to do what their parents say. You know, I mean, that's probably what's wrong with things, is kids think they make the rules and they don't. So, and they do, and I would be glad to listen to them as far as visitation. And what should be the truth, and probably is the truth, is they don't want to visit either parent. They probably have more they want to do with their friends. However, friends are going to come and go, but their parents are here. You know, who's going to get them out of trouble or help them pay for this or help them pay for that? It's mom and dad, not this friend or that friend or this boyfriend or this whatever. It's going to be their parents. And at some point down, they'll go through not liking their dad. They're going to go through not liking their mom, and they may go through not liking both of them at some point in time. But in the end, these two people right here are the people that, when it comes down to, you know, the nails and bits, and these two people are the ones that are going to be there for them. So, I mean, I may hear from them, but not to, and if I hear from them on something else, I mean, it may have to be the lawyers and us going there to ask them something, but I'm not going to make them speak in the court reporter, but I'm not going to make them look these two parents in the eyes and say something negative about them. I'm just not going to do that.
And Judge, I'm very happy to have the testimony on chambers with just the attorneys. And the truth of the matter is, having raised 3 children, you know, their voice needs to be heard on this, in as much as it's impossible to quell their voices. And also, too, it's impossible, unless you figured out something I haven't, to make a 16 or 17-year-old or 18-year-old, absent a headlock, go where they don't want to go.
Well, that's true, but I also know that sitting in juvenile court and everything else, that kids lie. So I'll also keep that in mind too.
Very good, Your Honor. Thank
But
you.
I think you can make 16, 17-year-old girls do what you tell them to do. I was one, Miss Carlson was one, Miss Sanders was one, Miss Phillip, Miss Rubel. Ms.
I
Williams?
raised you, Judge, and I got
Yeah,
in
I
trouble.
did things I didn't want to do at 16.
I still do things I don't want to do.
I know.
But
I thought it was
Ms.
adulthood, but
Carlson, I'm sure you were a perfect angel and did everything, everything. And we know Miss Sanders was. However, yeah, so we'll talk about when we come back then. It may be there. Let's see. So
Okay.
what we have is, I think that before I learned it, Miss Rubel's on vacation the week of the 24th, and some of you are probably taking a vacation that week.
yes,
So
I am. I have leave through the 31st, but I think that Mr. Tannen has some leave.
and you had some leave that same week. So, okay, so we'll mark that week off. So I don't want to break it up too much. So I have, which I'm trying to, so Miss Derico's on here, my boss. I don't have anything on my child support establishment calendar, but you know, I can give you till 2 o'clock, or I can give you, it looks like the entire day on June 7th and the entire day on the 8th, and you can just finish everything on June 7th and
Let's
8th.
do that. Yeah, that would be my preference, Your Honor.
What about you?
I have
Ms.
no conflicts on the 7th and the 8th, I think. Hold on, what is this?
And then this would be, we're already starting it, so it should
Cancel.
trump everything except for some criminal case. And I don't know if Judge Swirl has anything that Ms. Sanders would be in conflict with, if we'd have to get somebody else.
Ms. Sanders is in a class by herself, but I think we could muddle with a substitute if need be.
I don't